Here's my storage unit, and that is a mountain of snow. I'm in tennis shoes. Sometimes I hate my life. Damn it. Oh, boat, how much I missed you. Did you miss me, boat? Did you miss me? Yeah, you missed me. Hey guys, welcome back to Sea Basing or Fishing. I thought I'd come by and, well, first off, I just wanted to see my boat. I missed it so much. Look at her, she's so pretty. She missed me, she's cold. She's cold in here. Batteries are all dead. I haven't touched this, I haven't touched the boat. I haven't touched the boat since July. The video I posted where I'd caught almost 20 pounds and broke my trolling motor cable. I actually came over to check out that cable. I still have to order a new one. But we're still a couple months away from open water, so it's fine. But anyways, here to play with the boat, and I wanted to go over and show you guys what my favorite baits for late winter into the pre-spawn. Not quite the spawn yet. A lot of the countries there, if you're deep down south, you're probably already hardcore in the spawn, but I'm still ice fishing here. We're a long ways away from that. So, without further ado, let's hop in a boat. You guys can check out what I got here. First off, before we get into everything, what I want you guys to understand is, I'm talking like, if you're in the Ozarks or anything like that, I'm not really in the Ozarks, but I'm fairly close to it. So if you're in the Ozarks, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, and then really just kind of the Midwest as well. This really applies to you guys. And then as far as farther up north, where guys are dealing with more ice than I am, you know, we're talking probably like late April, most of May. I know you guys deal with a lot more smallmouth, so it's a little bit different. But a lot of this still applies. It would still work for me with smallmouth. This stuff is going to apply with you guys down in Texas. Obviously, you don't deal with just as much cold water as we do. But we're talking from late winter into the fish are moving up shallow, but they're not on beds yet. You're not looking for beds, or they're not spawning yet. But they're getting pretty close. All the way up through that. So these are the baits that I like to use. First off, we're going to start with a jerkbait. This is the Skirmish Baits Aim 9. That's the Indigo. Chris's Indigo. I just did a video on this. Why can I not remember this? I'm sorry, Chris. I suck at life. This is their jerkbait. This only gets down to 6 feet. I know there's other jerkbaits out there that get down to like 10, and some get deeper. I think there's a perfect time for those things as well. What I'm going to go over, there's so many other baits you can use. These are just my favorites to use because I'm more of a power fisherman. But there will be days where it's just ungodly cold. And yeah, okay, maybe these baits aren't the things that you want. But I'm going to say your day in, day out, average temperatures to a really good warm day, these are the kind of baits you want to throw, right? If you're like me, you'd much rather go fish for active fish that are in, you know, less than 15 feet of water. That's probably more your thing, right? If you can find them in less than 10 or 5, hey, that's even better. Those are active fish. So anyways, jerkbait, okay? Let's speed that up. I like the jerkbait. This is a suspending bait. Suspends really well, just like all jerkbaits. It really depends on what the water temperature is. It may depend on what it is. It may be a slow rise or a slow sink, or it may just hold perfectly still. That's fine. It has a really good action, and I can fish it really slow, or I can fish it really fast. Obviously, in the early spring, you're going to be, or the late winter, I should say, you're going to start with it pretty slow, right? Just as I know a lot of guys always have questions on cadence, I'm pretty much a twitch, pause kind of person. So throw it out there, reel it down to its max depth, which, I mean, if we're being honest, you give it 5 cranks of the reel handle, maybe, just to pull it down. You get it down there, twitch, and then wait maybe 2 seconds, and then repeat. You do this for a little while, and if you're not getting any bites, when you feel like, man, I should be around some fish, extend that pause out there to 5 seconds. And if you feel froggy, send it out there to 10. There are guys out there that will twitch this thing and let it go for 30 seconds, a minute. Some guys will twitch it and then drink a cup of coffee and smoke a cigarette and then twitch it again. I ain't that guy, but people do that. You can certainly do that. I'm looking for more active fish on this. I'm not looking for the neutral, I don't really want to bite fish. But you can do that with a jerkbait. Then, I also like a jig. This is actually a flipping jig. The two I like is a flipping jig and a football jig. These are both gambler jigs. You guys have seen me use the flipping jig a ton. Colors, yeah, you know, I am big on colors, but I think that really applies to where you're from. You know, black and blue is good. I don't care where you're at. Black and blue is always good. Clear or dirty water, it's obviously better in dirtier water, but black and blue is always good. And then your more natural colors, that really depends on where you're at. Where I'm at, obviously we have crawfish, but we also have a lot of bluegill. We really don't have a lot of shad in most of the places I go. Here around Nebraska, we typically don't have a lot of shad. So bluegill, crappie, those are our things. So those are the things I try to imitate the most. As far as flipping jigs or football jigs go, I like to go with a 1/2 ounce to start. 1/2 ounce is a little heavy in the really cold days, so maybe you need to go down. But maybe you're fishing deeper. Maybe I'm in like 15 feet or more. I like the heavier weight because I don't have to wait till tomorrow for this thing to hit the bottom after I cast it out. When I favor the football jig over the flipping jig is obviously when there's not a lot of cover down there to snag on. So if I have rocks or a sand bottom or a hard, flat, no wood or weed bottom, I'm going to go with the football jig. It has, if you've ever seen a football jig kind of come through rocks, it kind of has a little walk action a little bit when you drag it. So I like that. And then if there's any wood or grass for that matter, I'm going to go with the flipping jig. Also, maybe I am actually flipping that day. Maybe I'm flipping docks or something, if that's just what I feel like is the thing. I'm going to go with the flipping jig. As far as the trailer goes, remember, the bass aren't really active. So, you know, there's all sorts of trailers you can use. You know, God, there's so many trailers out there. A lot of guys like stuff with a lot of action, but this time of year, you don't really want that. What I like to use, which I actually use this a lot because it skips well, but particularly the action on this is a Gambler Flappy Daddy. You can see it's just flat appendages here, flat pinchers. And it's not a real thick profile either as far as the body goes. It's not going to have a whole lot of kicking action on it. You know, it's pretty much just going to be there and have some real fluid movement on it. I like that most of the time on a jig when it's cold like this. So as we move on up, it's starting to get a little warmer. You know, we've started to get like, hey, spring is here. Maybe we don't have buds on trees, but ice is leaving. Things like that. I'm still going to stay with the same baits that I have. Still going to use those, but maybe I can fish a little shallower. Maybe I can fish a little faster. One of the first ones I like to go to, and this is an Ozark staple, are these wide wobbling crankbaits. This is the Skirmish Baits A10. You're going to see a whole lot of crawl colors. Let's just get that out there. That is a springtime thing. If you guys have paid any attention to bass fishing, crawl colors in the winter and early spring, that's like a major staple. I've got this down to 10 feet on 10-pound test and a pretty good cast, pretty long cast, but it deflects off rock really well. Comes through wood, okay. It's not crazy great. I mean, it's not a square bill, but you can see it has a kind of square bill property to it a little bit. So it does come through wood pretty well, all things considered. Has a very wide wobble. So for me, when it's been its best, is on days where like, hey, it's still cold, but we've just had a really good warming front. We've had where it's been down in the 40s or 50s or something, and now for the last 2 days, it's like, wow, we've touched like 60, 70. It's, wow, man, it's warm. This is not normal, but the water temperature is still like high 40s, low 50s. This bait will actually still start to work. You know, I'm throwing it in 4 to, you know, maybe 8 feet of water, while I have the boat maybe out in 12 or 15, and then it's coming down and I'm working it that way. It's a real good way to find them. You know, I'm focusing on, not primary, well, primary points. Main lake points. Hey, there's a word. Main lake points, secondary points, stuff like that. I like to fish it that way. Something else to keep in mind throughout this whole time, it's winter and spring, man. We get cold fronts. It happens. What you can do a lot of times is you can pick up a Shad Rap. Yeah, this is, well, what size is this? I don't even know what this is. Yeah, this is number 5. So this is a pretty small one. They make them a lot bigger than this. I think a number 7 is what a lot of guys like. I had a number 7. Either I lost it or I just can't find it. A number 7 is what I typically like, but a number 5 is not bad either. You typically got to cast it on spinning gear, so I don't particularly like to do that. But it is it's a balsa bait. There's no sound to it. It's a very neutral, non-aggressive lure. It has a pretty tight wobble. Man, it's a staple for a lot of guys in cold water, especially after fronts. It's really good. Hey, look at that, crawl color again. Big surprise, right? Moving on, water's getting a little warmer, starting to get a little warmer. I like to go with this. This is a Skirmish Baits Tango 6. You guys have seen crankbaits like this before. This has a one knocker sound. We're still sticking with the crawl colors and the sticky sharp hooks. This will get down to 6 feet. It casts like a bullet. It casts really, really well. And I like to fish this around rock. I really like to fish this around rock, riprap, things like that. Those things hold heat, and they're really good places. They're really good staging areas. So, maybe I was 2014 or so when Randy Howell won the Bassmaster Classic on Guntersville. He was fishing causeways. He was fishing. It was fishing bridge openings, right? These are staging areas before the bass move into spawn. Pre-spawn, right? Those are the kind of things I like to look for. This fishes really well around those things. And then I also like same kinds of areas, and when I can fish a little shallower. This is the Skirmish M9 square bill. I got a square bill tied on 12 months out of the year. Just call me crazy, but man, I love this thing. You can do a whole lot with it. I fish it through grass, I fish it through rock, I fish it through wood. It comes through all of it, depending on how you want to do. You can change up your the pound test on your line, to keep it a little higher in the water column or lower, whatever it is you're doing. You can do a lot of things with it. Still sticking with the crawl colors. Here's a little tip. If you are in smallmouth waters, you can fish a crawl color all year long. They love that stuff. Also, if you are in grass lakes, you guys see this a lot. They'll fish. You'll hear guys say, hey, there's a real good trap bite going on. They're speaking of the old rattle trap. Well, this is a Skirmish Baits lipless crankbait. These are always great for ripping out of the grass. You let it tick, you're letting it tick, 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 just the tops of the grass. It hangs a little bit, and you pop it out. Those bass are normally relating to holes in the grass, isolated clumps, edges of the grass, and when this comes through and rips out of that, it just triggers a bite. It's a reaction bite. And maybe you're reeling it kind of slow, and you think the fish are going slow, but they see that rip out of there and it's trying to get away and it looks wounded or something. They see it as an opportunity, as an easy meal, and they'll snatch this up. It's a real good way to put a real big bag of fish in the boat when times are right. It's a real good thing. Chatterbait is also a real good thing to throw that time of year. I like a chatterbait when I feel like they're seeing a lot of these. And you know what? Nowadays, everyone is fishing a chatterbait, and you're having less people fishing a lipless bait. So I kind of feel like you can go with this more and catch fish that other people aren't targeting. And then my last power fishing bait, that again, it's something else. Like I don't fish this much anymore, man. Don't ask me why. I wish I did, but because when I tie it on, good things happen. But I just don't. It's a spinnerbait. In the spring, in the early spring, I like to fish a bigger spinnerbait. This is a 1/2 ounce. I actually like bigger blades than this because these are 3 1/2s. But I like a spinnerbait. I like to go with. We're going to get away from crawl colors on this. I like to go with shad colors. And this can be fished anywhere. Obviously, I'm kind of fishing it up in the water column. I like this when the fish they've moved away from the main lake points. They're getting more towards secondary points. They're not on the 45-degree bank, stuff like that. You can throw this next to stumps and logs. You can slow roll it down them, or you can fish it up in the water column. It's something I like to do when the water it's warmed up fairly well. The fish are just about to get on beds. A lot of times, like I grew up in Oklahoma, the water would come up in the spring, so we've been getting a lot of rains, but the fish aren't spawning yet. You'd have a lot of flooded bushes, or like the grass that grew up because the lake was low, and now it's high. Now that grass is kind of flooded. I like to wake this, which means you're just bringing it right below the surface. You're not having to reel it fast because you got blades big enough to keep it high, but it creates a wake, a bulge on the surface, right? Bulge. I like to fish it that way. Something about that disturbance, it's almost like fishing a buzzbait without the commotion, right? They seem to really like that. A spinnerbait. Do not forget about that. That's a really good one. Now, last bait overall, and this you could call this another 12 months a year bait too, but it's good anytime things go downhill. You get a front comes through or what have you. This is the Gambler Weebo. It's just a finesse worm, right? You see a ton of these. This is actually watermelon red. I love this color everywhere. If you have fairly clear to really clear water, this just, man, this does it everywhere I've been. It's always been great. But you can do a ton of things with this bait. You can Texas rig it, put it on a lightweight, and it's a good way to pick up bites. If you've went through an area and just slaughtered them, but you're like, man, I feel like I should get bites, I should probably pick up another couple. Or if in practice you slaughtered them in this area and then the weather changed and now you feel like the fish are still here, but they're not eating that spinnerbait or the crankbait or the jig or whatever, you can Texas rig this, especially like around grass and stuff. You can Texas rig it, drag it through there at the speed of smell, and you can pick up a lot of bites with it. You can drop shot it. You can wacky rig it, although I typically like to wacky rig like a Fat Ace, your Cinco style baits. I like to wacky rig those a little more. You can put it on a Nico rig. I like doing that as well. A number of things you can do. And that's pretty much it as far as the baits that I really like, guys. I know for me, I'm not too far away from having that time of year when I can put this boat back in the water. And a lot of you guys are already there, so drop some comments below. Tell me how the fishing's going where you're at, because I'm about to lose my mind. I'm sitting here in the cold talking about fishing lures to you guys. Yeah, I'm losing it. That's about it, man. Like, subscribe, all that neat stuff like everyone tells you to do. Until then, see you guys on the water.